Alright guys, I know I'm kind of spamming these basic logic videos, but the more I scroll through them and look at the titles and the subject matter, the more interested I am. And I like sharing these things with you. So today's topic is, what politics must Christians support? I mean, obviously you guys know we follow politics on the Cartier Family channel. I definitely lean conservative, but I do consider myself an independent. But I am a Christian and I follow politics, so I'd like to see what basic logic has to say on the subject. So with that being said, let's get into it. Forgive me if it looks like I'm looking around. I have two monitors, so I'm like bouncing my eyes around through both of them.
Good news. Whenever someone appeals to your Christian faith to try to get you to unconditionally support a politician, party, or certain nation, they are simply manipulating you.
Facts.
And you have no obligation to give in. Bad news, what your faith demands from you is far greater. In this video, I'll be mapping Christian morality to the most pressing modern-day political divides. And a disclaimer, this video is for those who wish to align their values with Christ as they navigate the complexities of modern politics. If you're hoping instead to align Christ to your modern sensibilities, you can click away. Abortion. I'm going to respect your intelligence and simply assume you already agree that abortion is killing a human being.
I do too.
Even the pro-abortion people admit that nowadays, and instead argue on the basis of bodily autonomy. Murdering an innocent baby is obviously against Christian morality, especially since 95% plus are for convenience. In other words, killing babies to allow people to indulge in lust without consequence. So the better question is, what are we going to do about it? According to the World Health Organization, over the last 50 years, there have been 2.5 billion abortions worldwide, and that number is ramping up. The debate among Christians is how we should go about fixing this. There are two main positions. First, the standard pro-lifer, and second, the abolitionist. The core of their debate is strategy. The pro-lifer wants incremental, real-world change. If they see a law that would decrease abortions but not fully abolish it, they'd support it. The abolitionist would not. They want an all-or-nothing approach. One sees themselves as a pragmatist, the other as standing on principle. But what I'd like to remind both camps is that we're running out of time. With 2.5 billion already dead and more deaths accelerating, we're dealing with the greatest act of evil that humans have thus far been capable of. Whatever isn't working must be discarded now, and whatever can work, even if previously unthinkable, must be embraced now to save as many lives as possible. But what actions can be taken? Many believe Christians are supposed to submit to legitimate authorities unconditionally, citing verses that seem to suggest as much. Which brings me to my next topic, compliance and just war. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and give unto God what is God's. That is our standard. Do 2.5 billion babies belong to Caesar, so they may be sacrificed in the name of lust without consequence, or do they belong to God? So what happens when an earthly authority goes too far? Some individuals who should really know better have stated that there's no such thing as a just war. In doing so, they break thousands of years of church tradition and contradict all the times in the Bible which God commanded war. So what's the actual standard? The theologian Augustine argues three main tenets for a just war. There must be first a valid cause, such as defending yourself, recovering something that was unjustly taken, or in our case, correcting a grave wrong. Second, there must be the right intention, with the goal of establishing a long-lasting peace and resolution. And third, it must come from a legitimate authority. The third point is what throws a wrench in the plans of many would-be private crusaders. But there's a solution. The theologian Aquinas argues that rebellion against tyranny is not an act of sedition, as, quote, tyranny is not law, but rather a species of violence, and that instead true legitimacy belongs to lesser officials actually committed to God's law and the collective body of the community. And from there, the following specifications are made. The overthrow must not lead to a greater evil than tyranny itself. And lastly, all legal channels have been ineffective. So judge for yourself if we meet those conditions. Welfare. Charity is a big deal in Christianity.
Well, I'm confused about that. So who would be the lesser authority? Would that be us? I guess I'm confused about that one there, guys. Maybe someone in the comments can explain that to me a little clearer. I like what was being said. I definitely don't believe in like full compliance. I don't believe in that. And I do believe in some form of rebellion, because we, the people, should have power. Like, we shouldn't just listen to what we're told. I feel like you start just listening to what you're told and to just comply, you're controlled. You're not really freely thinking, and you don't have freedom. You're a bot at that point. And I personally am anti-bot. So I just want to know, like, who would be the lesser authority? Like, is that us? Like, are we here or are we here? That's my question. But I do like what's being said so far. I think I'm more of like the pro-lifer. I stand on principle. I think the abolitionist, well, honestly, honestly, in 2026, as it currently stands, I don't think it's going to happen. I think where abortion is right now, where people are allowed to vote on it, is the best it's going to get, me personally, especially when we say we want democracy. And I do believe in democracy. I also believe that I only believe in abortion is acceptable in the case of the mother, in the case of her life. Always save the tree, not the fruit, in my opinion. And I also believe if a woman was raped, she shouldn't have to carry that baby. That's it. After that, I'm not on board at all. That's just me personally, though. I think that's the only thing it should be allowed. I think other than that, it should be done away with.
And the collective body of the community. And from there, the following specifications are made. The overthrow must not lead to a greater evil than tyranny itself. And lastly, all legal channels have been ineffective. So judge for yourself if we meet those conditions. Welfare. Charity is a big deal in Christianity, but not being an idiot is just as much. The standard for charity in Christianity is simple. Give those who actually need it, with need being determined by lack of ability. Quote, the one who is unwilling to work shall not eat. If you are able to provide for yourself, but don't, then go starve. The Apostle Paul expands on this when he says that women who are of marriageable age or those who have family should not be recipients, as they have the means to be provided for. Some may hear this and think it's harsh, but the reason is simple. We do not want our generosity to be taken advantage of and incentivize parasitism.
Completely
agree. And
agree.
more than that, we don't want to rob the truly desperate.
I'd actually like to pause here and go back to that Bible verse. I've just been thinking about it. This is huge, because I know if you follow social media and you follow what leftists say to people who are conservative Christians, they say, well, how are you a Christian and you don't believe in welfare? You want people to starve. You don't want immigrants in your country. And it just shows me that you don't actually know the Bible, because the Bible says, as a man who don't work, don't eat. It says it right here. If you are able, the one who is unwilling to work shall not eat. So, I mean, it's like, it's real simple here, guys. I mean, it's like, if the Bible says it, we follow, you know, as Christ has taught, we follow. And it's very simple, man. I think this is a great video so far. I'm really enjoying what he's saying. I'm enjoying the points he's making. And it's almost validating. And I know a lot of people who have these opinions and they use their faith to shape their outlook, and you're a Christian. I feel like you're being validated right now, my personal opinion. I feel validated. A lot of my beliefs, I feel like people try to use your religion against you. Like, oh, you're a Christian, you should love everybody. We should have open borders and socialism. I'm like, oh, whoa, buddy, shut that crap up. That's just me.
Then go starve. The Apostle Paul expands on this when he says that women who are of marriageable age or those who have family should not be recipients, as they have the means to be provided for. Some may hear this and think it's harsh, but the reason is simple. We do not want our generosity to be taken advantage of and incentivize parasitism. And more than that, we don't want to rob the truly desperate. Resources are limited. When charity is offered, we hope those resources go to those who truly need it.
Oh, wow.
When someone who doesn't takes it, he is stealing from the most vulnerable. You need only look at the disaster of the modern welfare state to understand the wisdom in this. Our systems are crumbling under the strain of millions of parasites, men and women of working age, often foreign, who refuse to contribute, abusers of disability checks, and so on. They are thieves who steal from those actually in need and should be treated as such. The state has proven itself wholly inadequate to manage charity to the needy, as well as prone to corruption.
Oh,
Entire
wow.
political campaigns are run on the promise of giving people who could work more welfare, effectively bribing voters with other people's money.
That's true.
Therefore, Christians must oppose current forms of state welfare and handle their charity personally and as a community, as it was in the past.
That was big.
Immigration.
I fully agree with that.
Several verses speak of treating sojourners in our lands as equals under the law. Instead, in the West, we treat them better, with unique access to our welfare at the expense of
I love what he just said. He said there's lots of things in the Bible that teaches you to treat foreigners as equal, and in America we treat them better. Hold on, I want you guys to see. There's another verse up here. Oh, sorry. There's another verse up here. Let me move myself. As you can see, there's another verse up here. So I want you guys to see all the verses. Put myself back up there. But that what he just said was big. That was big to me. We treat foreigners better. There's so many advantages that illegal immigrants and immigrants get in this country that put a leg up on them to citizens. So to me, it makes perfect sense why people would be angry about this and they would be adverse to this and they would be against this. Like, it makes perfect sense. Like, how come if you're born in America, you have to go and pay for school out of pocket and go into debt, but an illegal immigrant gets the sliding scale and he gets free tuition and scholarship money and all these opportunity and free money from the government to live off of? Why should we be okay with that? This is our home and you're getting a better opportunity than us. I feel like everyone should be against that, regardless of religion. I love what's being said here. I love what's being said here. Sorry. Said to stop and highlight on that because if you know what I say on the Cartier family, I feel very strongly about this. This is actually what led me to vote for someone like Donald Trump, was stronger immigration policies and being stiffer on immigration and what I thought was going to lead to better treatment of the American people. Keyword, what I thought. That's just me, guys. That's just me.
Instead, in the West, we treat them better, with unique access to our welfare at the expense of natives, special treatment from law enforcement, and immunity in many cases from horrendous crimes. People often confuse the purposes of the verses claiming that you should treat all people fairly, as instead a command to allow limitless immigration. In truth, the Bible is against that. It warns the reader of what happened in ancient Israel, for example, when they began to import foreign cultures. Also, remember that the Bible defines nations often as bloodlines, the Canaanites being descendants of Canaan, for example, strengthening the case for popular nationalism. That is the view that nations are their people, not their bureaucracy, and when you replace the people, you therefore replace the nation. Some may argue that the people coming in are asylum seekers and refugees from war. I just find it strange that most of these war refugees are military-age males. I guess in their culture,
Dude, that was big. If you guys watched that Nick Shirley video, this is the age. If you guys watched the Nick Shirley video in Ceuta, Spain, where Moroccan immigrants overwhelmed their border and flooded into this territory that's owned by Spain, that's been owned by Spain for 400 years before Morocco was even a country. Look at this. This is the exact age of everybody there. They were like 15, 16, 17, 20, 25, 26. Some of them said they were fleeing murder charges. And it's like, this is exactly that. This is exactly what we're experiencing in the States. And people say, oh, they're asylum seekers. They want a better life. They want a better life. They want a better life. But why should we give them a better life at the expense of us? Why should we give them a better life at the expense of our lives? Why? Everybody wants a better life. So that argument to me is fully ridiculous. I'm like, it's ridiculous. Everyone in this freaking world wants a better life. So why should I give him a better life at the expense of mine? At the expense of our tax dollars? And it's the money we work for that's being taken and given to someone who freeloads off of it, which goes on to the last point on welfare, and they freeload off of it while people struggle to eat, pay bills, and survive in today's economy, and no one gives a shit. That's a real problem I have. That is a real problem I have with current politics.
That the people coming in are asylum
this is a great
seekers
video.
And refugees from
I love
war.
it.
I just find it strange that most of these war refugees are military-age males. I guess in their culture, it's women and children who fight the wars. It's also strange that they aren't going back home after the wars are over. Our leaders have allowed limitless immigration into the West, often against the will of the people, leading to some of the worst horrors in recent history, some of which I've covered in previous videos. The 2SLG, forget it, the alphabet people. In the Old Testament, the penalty for them was severe. This was a civil law given by God to the ancient Israelites, though, not something modern Christians are obliged to implement. However, today, it's fully legalized and in fact openly encouraged. Quite the stark contrast. We're called to love the sinner but hate the sin. But loving the sinner does not mean excusing the sin or curtailing justice. It would also be useful if more Christians could do a better job explaining why it's harmful. Right now, most just say, because the Bible said so, which while true, won't convince anyone who isn't already Christian, and will actually make people see Christianity as bigoted. Democracy.
That's a great point.
There's no passage in the Bible that commands you to be democratic. People nowadays have democracy as an idol, treating it as an absolute.
Hold on, let me go back to that. That's a great point. I think that people who say that, oh, I'm against this because the Bible told me to, it does paint Christianity in a bad light. And I think due to that, Christianity has faced a lot of scrutiny and persecution, and it's already the most persecuted religion in the world, in my personal opinion. And I think it's very interesting. I think a better argument for that is, well, I can't advocate for something I myself wouldn't do, but you go ahead and do you. But I won't advocate for something that I myself wouldn't do. That's how I do it. Like, look, go ahead and be gay, you do you, but I can't stand and advocate for it because I don't do it. It's not something I would advocate for, because I only advocate for something I would do. Like, if someone needed advice, I would give you good advice that I would do. I wouldn't go advise you to do something that I wouldn't do.
Get it? Democracy. There's no passage in the Bible that commands you to be democratic. People nowadays have democracy as an idol, treating it as an absolute good and being horrified at anything that could threaten it. The truth is, democracy is just a tool, and it works for some societies, and it fails for others. Christians are under no obligation to be democratic, or any other system. Their only obligation is to be wise. Is democracy the right tool for present society? If so, defend it. If not, discard it and use something better suited. This video has only scratched the surface. If there are any other points you're wondering about, please share them in the comments below. It's time to get more involved. Christians have long abandoned their role in society, confusing their inaction for morality. It's time we return to our post and get our house in order, unless its master returns when we're not ready for him and finds it in disarray.
Wow, that was a great video. I really enjoyed that video. Really enjoyed what was said, really enjoyed the points he made. I thought it was really cool to hear him break down a biblical perspective to modern day politics and how we as Christians should view things and articulate things and place our viewpoints on the biggest current problems like abortion, immigration, welfare. These are things that are heavily debated in politics every single day. And if you follow politics, you understand. And a lot of liberals, left-leaning people attack Christians with, they say, oh, well, the Bible, and they obviously misquote the Bible, because every single verse that Mr. Basic Logic pulled up was supporting our belief, a lot of our beliefs as Christians. So I thought that was really interesting. I loved the ending point. It doesn't tell us to go be conservative. It doesn't tell us to be democratic. It tells you to be wise. Now, I like to think the best way to be wise in politics is by being independent, not just following one side because they're Republican or following the other side because they're Democrats. I think it's best to just be wise. You need to vote for things that support your belief. They put America first. They put our people first, Christians first. They prioritize us. Those are the things. That's how I say my politics. I like to think I'm an independent. Obviously, I do lean conservative because conservative politics at face value protect Christianity and our beliefs. But I also think that they advocate for other countries and other beliefs at the expense of Christianity. Now, that's a topic for a different day. If you know, you know. I'm sure it's pretty obvious what I'm talking about. So I like to think I'm independent. And I think that is what is the biggest thing that's deterring me and a lot of other people like me from the right. Obviously, I'll still support conservative candidates, but I am open to a more America first, Christianity first type approach. That's me personally. But I thought this video was phenomenal. I loved what he had to say about abortion. I think my favorite point was the welfare point and the immigration point. Those are two things I feel very strongly about. So I really loved how he broke it down and used a biblical perspective to justify a lot of things that I believe. And I felt validated. I felt vindicated in that moment. And I'm sure that a lot of you guys viewing did too. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Always make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll be back with some more content.